Nightline begins now with me, Liana Hassanel. The top stories. BN open to cooperation if no simple majority in GE15. And Brinchang heli crash, all 6 on board found safe. Good morning. 5 members of a medical team, including a doctor, were found safe with light injuries after the helicopter transporting them crashed while attempting an emergency landing in a forested area near Brinchang in Cameron Highlands, Pahang on Wednesday afternoon. A State Fire and Rescue Department spokesperson said that the pilot of the privately owned helicopter escaped injury. Following the incident, a search and rescue operation was launched and rescuers found all 6 victims in the hills of Brinchang at 3:51 p.m. The spokesperson also said that the victims were given early treatment, adding that one of them suffered a broken leg. As of 7 p.m., 4 of the victims have been brought out from the crash site to the treatment zone, which was set up at a nearby farm. In a statement, Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin said 2 of them were referred to Sultanah Hajah Kalsom Hospital for further examination, while 2 others were still at the treatment zone. Another 2 victims are being evacuated from the crash site. Once stabilized, the victims would be referred to Raja Permaisuri Bainon Hospital in Ipoh. Khairy also said that the incident involved the flying doctor unit from the Kinta District Health Office, which was on their way back to Ipoh after completing a regular visit to an Orang Asli village in Gua Musang, Kelantan when the incident occurred. He added that further updates will be provided from time to time. Meanwhile, the Transport Ministry's Air Accident Investigation Bureau will conduct further investigation into the Brinchang helicopter crash. Its Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong confirmed the matter in a posting on his Facebook account on Wednesday. He added that the Bureau's investigation officers will also be asked to improve and maintain safety compliance inspections among private operators in the local aviation industry, especially considering the bad weather situation currently. Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia CAAM Chief Executive Officer Datuk Chester Vu in a separate statement earlier said it had received information on the air crash, which involved an Airbus AS355F2 helicopter with the registration number 9MSSW at 1:03 p.m. He also said that the helicopter with a pilot and 5 passengers on board had taken off from Kampung Gawin in Kelantan for Tanjung Rambutan, Perak at 12:20 p.m. The aircraft was operated by Layang Layang Aerospace Sdn Bhd. Barisan Nasional BN is prepared to team up with other political parties if the coalition is unable to secure a simple majority in Parliament after the 15th general election GE15. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, however, stressed that any decision on the matter would only be made by the UMNO Supreme Council following the outcome of the polls.
Tentu saja kita akan bekerjasama dengan parti-parti lain. Ya? Sebagai contoh, GPS ke daripada Sarawak, GRS, BN daripada Sabah atau apa-apalah parti yang akan ditentukan oleh MT nanti selepas keputusan. Apa-apa hal pun kita tunggu keputusan dulu, kemudian parti akan membuat keputusan.
Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri also said that to secure a simple majority and form the next federal government, BN would need to win at least 112 of the 222 parliamentary seats. He was commenting on the views of Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research Senior Fellow Professor Dr. Azmi Hassan, who expected BN to win in 80 to 85 Malay majority constituencies throughout Peninsular Malaysia. However, the number of seats was still insufficient for the coalition to form a government, and the political analyst pointed out that BN would need the support of other political parties, especially those in Sabah and Sarawak, to capture Putrajaya. Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri reiterated that the government will not interfere in court matters involving any individuals in the country, including issues related to the royal pardon for former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak. The Prime Minister added that a pardon for someone who has been convicted in court is totally up to the judicial review and the decision of the Pardons Board chaired by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong.
Isu pengampunan adalah kuasa Yang di-Pertuan Agong, bukan kuasa parti. Dan saya nak sebutkan yang kerajaan konsisten dengan pendirian iaitu kita tidak mencampur urusan mahkamah. Itu jelas. Urusan mahkamah, UMNO pun dah buat ketetapan. Kita tidak mencampur urusan mahkamah.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, who is also UMNO Vice President, said this in response to a political analyst's viral tweet claiming that Datuk Seri Mohammad Najib would be given full pardon if Barisan Nasional (BN) succeeded in forming the new government after the GE15. The Pekan Member of Parliament is currently serving his 12-year jail time at the Kajang prison after he lost his final appeal in the federal court to set aside his conviction and sentence, which included a fine of 210 million ringgit on August 23rd this year. Datuk Seri Mohammad Najib's lawyers had filed a judicial review on the case, which is slated to be heard in the federal court on January 19th. PKR will field 6 personalities from various backgrounds and an undergraduate as new candidates representing the party in the GE15. Among them is Nik Omar Nik Abdul Aziz, a son of former past spiritual leader, the late Datuk Nik Abdul Aziz Nikmat. PKR President Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the new faces also include former Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry Ministry Secretary General Datuk Zainal Azman Abu Seman and University Sultan Zainal Abidin, who will be fielded together with Nik Omar in Perak. Another candidate is UNIZA former Vice-Chancellor Datuk Dr. Hassan Basri Awang Mat Dahan, who will contest in Pahang. Also on the list are University Malaya Senior Lecturer in the Department of Parasitology, Faculty of Medicine, Dr. Nur Aisyah Maidan Abdul Aziz, to contest in Kuala Lumpur. Former Selangor Zakat Board Chief Executive Officer Saipul Yazan Yusof to be fielded in Selangor. And former Malaysian Youth Council MBM President Jufitri Johar, who will contest in Negeri Sembilan. The party will also field a young candidate from among university students, 28-year-old Fatin Amelina Fazli in Perlis.
Ya, akan diumumkan pada 28 bulan malam.
Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also Pakatan Harapan PH chairman, made the announcement on the new faces in a press conference at the party's headquarters in Petaling Jaya on Wednesday. PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli, who was also present, said the selection of these new faces was to meet voter demands for fresh candidates from various backgrounds instead of full-time politicians. Too much politicking within the DAP, says incumbent Bentong MP Wong Tak. He passed this remark after his party failed to give him the nod to defend his seat. Instead, he was replaced by the party's Deputy Youth Chief, Yang Shafura Othman. And this has prompted Wong to still contest the seat, but as an independent candidate. It was earlier in the day that the DAP leadership made this announcement that the party wants to move Wong to the Cameron Highlands parliamentary constituency. Wong, however, turned it down.
We are not making decisions just based on observations. We have done survey. We have done a scientific survey on the seats, and we make decisions based on winnability. And from our survey, she is our most winnable candidate in Bentong.
Wong was described as a giant killer in the 14th general election when he defeated then MCA President Tan Sri Liao Tiong Lai.
We also have no interest to play political games, particularly party politics. The people are not pawns in the games of chess.
DAP is also putting Tanah Rata incumbent Assemblyman Cheong Yok Kong to contest in the Cameron Highlands parliamentary seat. Trust incumbent Assemblyman Chow Yu Hui will go for the Raub parliamentary seat, while incumbent Raub MP Tengku Zulpuri Rajapuji goes to Lipis. DAP will also contest in 8 state assembly seats, with a list of candidates to be announced next week. Previously, DAP's Batu Kawan incumbent MP Kasturi Pato decided not to contest at any constituencies in this general election, following speculations that certain leaders of the party had been eyeing that seat. In Selangor, it is widely speculated that another DAP MP, Charles Santiago, would not be picked to defend the Klang parliamentary seat, despite winning the seat for 3 consecutive terms. The Home Ministry KDN is considering establishing a one-stop centre under the police to expedite investigations by law enforcement agencies. Its Minister, Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, said the proposed centre will house, among others, the Chemistry Department, Health Ministry, National Registration Department and Immigration Department.
Siasatan kadang-kadang kala terganggu sedikit kerana kelewatan daripada agensi-agensi lain. Maka sebab itu kalau kita ada one-stop center di sini, ianya bukan hanya untuk agensi ini, tapi juga untuk semua agensi enforcement yang ada dalam negara kita boleh guna pakai.
Datuk Sri Hamzah said this in a press conference after opening the 3rd National Forensic Science Symposium for Law Enforcement 2022 in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. He added that KDN was also looking at giving special allowance to police forensic officers in recognition of their sacrifices in carrying out their duties. In preparation for the GE15, Datuk Sri Hamzah said he would request the usage of advanced devices to ensure national security during and after the polls. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah was accorded a state welcome on Wednesday in conjunction with His Majesty's official visit to Singapore. Accompanying the King at the ceremony held at the Istana Orchard Road was Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Hajah Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria. On arrival at 5:30 p.m., Their Majesties were received by Singapore's President Halimah Yacob and her husband Muhammad Abdullah Al-Habshi. Al-Sultan Abdullah received a royal salute from the Guard of Honour accompanied by the Malaysian national anthem Negaraku and the Republic's national anthem Majulah Singapura. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong then inspected a Guard of Honour accompanied by Halimah and later signed the President's Visitors Book. His Majesty was also introduced to Singapore Cabinet Ministers before leaving for the orchid naming ceremony, of which one of the orchid species was named Queen Azizah of Malaysia. After the ceremony, Al-Sultan Abdullah and Tunku Azizah held a meeting with Halimah and Muhammad for about half an hour before leaving for the state dinner at the official residence and office of the President of Singapore. Earlier, Al-Sultan Abdullah granted an audience to Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and 4 members of his cabinet in conjunction with the King's state visit to the Republic. When we come back, death toll rises in cyclone-ravaged Bangladesh. Stay with us. We're back with news on the foreign front. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has delayed the announcement of the government's fiscal plans from 31st October to 17th November, saying it will be a full autumn statement, telling his cabinet that time needed to be made to do things in the proper way. Sunak said it was important to reach the right decisions and there is time for those decisions to be confirmed with cabinet. The statement, he said, would be accompanied by a full forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, in the meantime, said he had agreed the change of date with Sunak and that the statement would set out in detail plans to reduce debt and a medium-term plan to grow the economy. The new date means the economic plans and the OBR forecasts will not be made available before the next meeting of the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee, which sets interest rates on 3rd November.
Even his own side know he's not on the side of...
In another development, the death toll from Cyclone Sitrang that swept Bangladesh on Tuesday has risen to 35, causing huge damage across the country and forcing about 10 million people to relocate to safer areas. According to authorities, the cyclone hit 16 districts of the country, with the port city of Chittagong's Misrai town recording the highest number of deaths at 8. The other 27 deaths, mostly due to drowning and tree falling, were reported in the districts of Chattogram, Cox's Bazar, Brahmanbaria, Kumilla, Narail, Sirakjan, Bola, Barguna, Munchigan, Noakhali and Gopalganj. Cyclone Sitrang made landfall in southern Bangladesh on Monday, but authorities managed to get about 1 million people to safety before the monster storm hit. With winds of 80 km per hour, it still left a trail of devastation in the country's densely populated, low-lying coastal region. Over in the Philippines, at least 26 people were injured by a magnitude 6.4 earthquake that rocked the country's northern states, forcing the closure of an international airport, sending panicked residents into the streets and causing substantial damage to a hospital. The earthquake, which struck at about 10:59 p.m. local time on Tuesday near the upland town of Dolores, was felt as far away as the capital Manila, more than 330 kilometers to the south. Officials said the victims were mostly from Ilocos Norte, the home province of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., where the international airport in the capital city of Laoag was ordered to close temporarily on Wednesday due to damage from the earthquake. The president, also known as Bongbong, also warned of aftershocks on Wednesday and advised people to stay out of tall structures. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, is gravely concerned about escalating violence in Myanmar. Ahead of a special meeting of its foreign ministries on Thursday, the bloc's chair, Cambodia, in a statement, calls for restraint and immediate cessation of fighting and for all parties to pursue dialogue. A spokesperson for the Cambodian Foreign Ministry, however, said Myanmar would not be participating in Thursday's meeting at the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta. The gathering is expected to assess the progress in the implementation of 5-point consensus on Myanmar that was adopted last April in Jakarta. Foreign ministries will also aim to come up with recommendations on how to push forward the peace process ahead of an ASEAN summit next month. Recent increase in violence in Myanmar saw at least 50 people killed following the bombing of the country's largest prison, conflict in Karen State, and an airstrike in Kachin State on Sunday. Football action from the Malaysia Cup. Sports when we return. Malaysia Cup. 6 matches were played on Wednesday night. Champions JDT thrashed PJ City 4-0. Kelantan beat Sarawak United 1-0. Sabah edged UiTM 2-1. Kuching City drew 2-2 with Pulau Pinang. Selangor crushed Kelantan United 2-0. And in Alor Star, hosts Kedah kicked off their campaign on a low note as they succumbed to a 1-2 defeat to Negeri Sembilan. Kedah opened the scoring in the 7th minute through Fayed Zulkifli before Che Rashid Che Halim drew level for Negeri Sembilan 3 minutes before half-time. The visitors then grabbed their winner 6 minutes after the hour mark, courtesy of Matthews Alves. Both teams will meet again at the Paroy Stadium on Monday for their second leg clash. On to tennis, Swiss indoors Basel. Holger Rune's late-season surge showed no sign of abating Wednesday after the 19-year-old fired his way to a 6-2, 7-5 first-round win against Alex de Minaur. After lifting his second ATP Tour title on Sunday in Stockholm, Rune picked up where he left off in Basel, hitting 26 winners to 7th-seeded de Minaur's 9 in an 89-minute triumph. It was the Dane's second victory against de Minaur in the space of 5 days, after he overcame the Australian in 3 sets in the Stockholm semi-finals on Saturday. Having also reached the final in Sofia at the beginning of the month, the world number 25 now holds an 11-2 record on European indoor hard courts this autumn. Rune's next opponent in Basel will be Ugo Humbert, after the French qualifier downed Jensen Brooksby 6-1, 6-4. Up next, teen claims trial to causing death of younger brother. Stay tuned. This just in, it's confirmed that incumbent 3-term MP Charles Santiago has been dropped as the DAP candidate for Klang in the 15th general election. When unveiling Selangor DAP's GE15 candidates a while ago at a fundraising dinner, Party Secretary General Anthony Loke said V. Ganabathirao will contest a seat instead of Charles, who first won the seat in 2008. Also, the incumbent Damansara MP Tony Puau will not be defending his seat. In GE14, Puau won the Damansara parliamentary seat with 121,283 votes in a landslide win. It was also the highest recorded majority nationwide with 106,903 votes. Datuk Lokman Nur Adam failed to set aside his jail sentence for intimidating a witness in the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB trial. The Court of Appeal on Wednesday affirmed Datuk Lokman's 1-month jail sentence imposed by the High Court after he was found guilty of contempt of court for intimidating Datuk Amhari Effendi Nazaruddin, former special officer to former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak, and the prosecution witness in the trial. Judge Datuk Che Muhammad Ruzima Ghazali, when reading the decision, said the High Court did not err when convicting the former UMNO Supreme Council member for contempt of court. The court also dismissed a cross-appeal by the prosecution to increase Datuk Lokman's jail sentence. Judge Datuk Che Muhammad Ruzima said there was no reasonable excuse for the court to interfere with the prison sentence handed down by the High Court judge. Datuk Lokman, who was represented by senior lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, later applied for a stay on the order of committal and sentence pending an appeal at the federal court. The court then allowed a stay pending an appeal. In Johor, a teenage girl was brought before the Children's Magistrates Court in Johor Bahru on a charge of unintentionally causing the death of her younger brother in Kampung Ulu Pulai, Iskandar Putri, last week. The accused, who is 17 years and 11 months old, pleaded not guilty after the charges were read before Magistrate Zuhaini Zulkafli. The accused cannot be publicly named as she is a minor. According to the charge sheet, the Form 6 student caused the death of her 16-year-old brother at their family home on Jalan Mini Stadium, Kampung Ulu Pulai at 1:50 p.m. on October 19th. The eldest of 5 siblings was charged under the Penal Code for culpable homicide not amounting to murder, which provides for a maximum prison sentence of 10 years or a fine or both if convicted. The prosecution was represented by Johor State Prosecution Director Tengku Amir Zaki Tengku Abdul Rahman and Deputy Public Prosecutor Hayatul Mirdah Muhammad Yunus. The magistrate allowed the accused to post bail at 10,000 ringgit with one surety. Malaysia.